I'm the immediate past president of the Bay of Plenty branch of the New Zealand Deerstalkers Association. Our members come from Te Puke all the way up to Katikati. We're mainly interested in hunting, bushcraft and shooting. The environment's quite important to us. We're out there harvesting animals and we're spending time with friends and family. So if we're going to be harvesting animals from the kaimais or deer, pigs, we want to know that the animals are in good healthy condition because ultimately we're going to be bringing those animals home for our family. Also we're going to be walking up waterways, so we want those to be in good condition, and we're going to be drinking from those streams and waterways that are in the mountains, and also using that water for cooking and cleaning. So it's important that that they're in good condition and they're looked after.
I am the president of Bay of Plenty Federated Farmers, and we advocate for all farmers, and whether you be dairy, sheep and beef, arable, bees, goats. So yes, if you're farming, we will be advocating on your behalf in this area. We need water to grow our pastures. We need water to water our stock. And it's vitally important that the catchments where that water comes from are protected. The quality of the water is vital to all of us.
I'm the Regional Manager for Forest and Bird. We advocate and protect our native animals and plants and our wild places on both the land and the sea. We're a voice for nature. Catchment management and clean water are important to forest and bird because those places provide habitat for our native freshwater species, and that's inclusive of our freshwater insects that provide kai for our native fishes, and also for the birds that live in and around our fresh waterways. And that includes streams and rivers and wetlands and estuaries.
I'm an environmental advisor with Trustpower. Trustpower is an electricity generator and utility provider. We have schemes throughout New Zealand where we use water or wind to generate electricity. Catchment management is really important to Trustpower. It allows our operations teams to determine how and when to use water to generate electricity. We need to understand within the catchment how water is used both upstream and downstream of our power stations.
I'm the president of Te Puke Fruitgrowers Association. This is a voluntary organisation looking after horticultural interests of members in the Te Puke and Eastern Tauranga area. Our members grow kiwi fruit, avocados, passion fruit and other range of fruit, kiwi fruit in this area being the predominant one. Water is one of the key components of our orchard management systems. We use it as irrigation for general plant health, and in periods of frost we use it to protect the plant from frosting. We do this by spraying it overhead the canopy. It forms ice around the new growth, and the temperature under the ice is maintained at zero, irrespective of how cold it gets.
I'm a trustee for Tourism Bay of Plenty. Tourism Bay of Plenty markets and promotes the Bay of Plenty region as a great place to holiday and visit to domestic visitors, so those people in New Zealand, and also offshore to international visitors. Tourism is really important for our region, and water is absolutely central to what we talk about in regards to tourism. When you think how New Zealand is marketed offshore, it's all about clean, green, 100% pure. So visitors expect to be able to drink from our streams, swim in our lakes, enjoy our beaches and harbour. So it's really important in terms of what we do with water, how we manage it, and how we maintain the quality of water.
I'm the Chair of Coastal Science at the University of Waikato. My function here is to look at the marine estate, coastal and the nearshore region. We look at environmental health, but also elements of marine innovation that might lead to new industry. Although my roles are associated with examining estuaries and coasts, it's the connections between all of the ecosystems, particularly catchments, that's particularly important. So our role and focus is looking at environmental health, and if we see issues there, trying to understand why they've occurred and how we might be able to fix them.
Ko mau au te maunga, ko tauranga te moana, ko Rangi te iwi, tihei wā Māori ora. My name is Charlie Tawhiao and I'm the chair of Rangi iwi, one of the 3 iwi of Tauranga Moana. Everything in the natural world has its own mana and its own Māori. Mana is its prestige and Māori is its life force. As iwi, we have a responsibility as kaitiaki to protect the mauri and mana of all living things, especially water. And we need to do that for future generations, for our mokopuna, for their mokopuna, for all of our mokopuna.
We'd like to see the water quality in the rivers and streams maintained or improved in the kaimais. We have some concerns, possibly about things like algae, like dirimo, getting into the waterways. Obviously that would be detrimental to the water quality and the experience. We also have some concerns as an organisation about the use of poisons in the environment. So if we bring home animals for the table, we want to know that they're healthy. And obviously if we're drinking the water, using it for cleaning and so forth, we'd want to know that that's safe.
The big issue for us is the increase in the demand of water. We now have multiple uses, from agriculture to horticulture to industry, all competing for the same body of water.
The main issue that we are concerned about in terms of water is the water allocation, the volumes that are allocated and the methodology used to make those allocations. We are also concerned about the quality of the water that is available to us.
The two key elements for our organisation as far as catchment management goes are the water quantity and the water quality. Now with the water quantity, we need to make sure that we are not overusing the amount of water that's available in a catchment. And so it's ensuring that we use it wisely and well. And with the quality, it's around the four key degradation elements of water, which we class as phosphorus, nitrates, sediment, E. coli. There are some other minor ones, but those are the four big key ones. And so it's important that farmers are aware that any water leaving their property is in a healthy state.
We consider Te Awanui, the harbour, to be made up of not just what we can see here as a harbour, but the whole catchment that contributes and drains into the harbour. All of the water that contributes to the harbour is the harbour. And a concern for us is the way that we're presently managing land and the practices we're using that are affecting the waterways draining into the harbour. Our understanding is that much of the water draining into the harbour is no longer drinkable, much of it is barely swimmable, and some of it is barely wadeable. And that is a real concern to us, because anything that affects the water draining into the harbour must affect the mauri and the mana of the harbour. And the harbour is central to our identity as iwi, and we believe to everybody's identity who lives in Tauranga.
The big issues for catchment management and clean water in the Tauranga Harbour are threefold. Firstly, it's on the tops where the forest is. The Kaimai Maraku Forest Park hasn't had pest control on a large scale for many years, and as such the forest is degraded and a lot of sediment runs from that into our streams. That is the basis of our second problem, which is water quality. Sediment loads from both the forest and from the lowlands that have been changed in their character to farming areas, both horticultural and other forms, are resulting in more sediment entering into those waterways. That runs into Tauranga Moana, which is our third issue and problem. That sediment is smothering the harbour and special places within, such as our eelgrass beds. They're very important as habitat for fish such as snapper.
Catchment issues of relevance to particularly estuaries and to some extent the coast. The big ones are sedimentation from badly managed land, and then the other knock-on effects, of course, from trying to enhance productivity on land, which results in higher nutrient levels. Those are the big ones, but they're now set in a context of other simultaneous effects with urban development, for instance, runoff from roads, PAHs, hydrocarbons, but also things that we might see in sewage outfalls, including chemicals and pharmaceuticals.
From a tourism perspective, one of the biggest issues is around managing growth of our region, and this absolutely relates to water quality and water allocation. From a quality point of view, there are already streams and rivers that you can't swim in our region. And from an allocation point of view, we already have aquifers whereby there's more water being taken out than is being naturally replenished. To a visitor, you want to be able to experience all that is New Zealand, and having access to fresh, clean water is absolutely central to that.
Well, if we look at the quantity of water issues first, it's important that farmers in a catchment are involved in the whole catchment discussion around water allocation of the whole catchment, because there won't only be farmers involved in the usage of that water, and it needs to be a whole catchment approach.
What we think needs to happen is for a fair way of dividing water between all those competing uses. This is going to be an interesting process, as it's going to get all those different water users together discussing the issues within the catchment. This process is going to take time, and it's going to involve cooperation and compromise from all the different water users.
The key requirement for us going forward is good science. We need science in terms of the actual water available from aquifers and from surface rivers. We need accurate data in terms of what is being used, including through unconsented takes and unmetered water supplies. Once we have those two, we can put together what is actually available for use without affecting the environment.
We would continue to talk to our members about not leaving carcasses close to waterways so that those waterways aren't contaminated, keeping their rubbish, taking their rubbish home for the same reasons, and also talking to the wider hunting community about those issues. Also, our members have concerns about aerial distribution of poison in the kaimais. We wouldn't like to see poisons being dropped into waterways or dead or dying animals ending up in those waterways as well, and I think that's something that the wider community needs to be mindful of. Around
the things like sediment loss that carries phosphorus and fecal coliforms and things like that, that's all around planting riparian strips along waterways, using wetlands as filters. When we start talking about nitrates, that's using the tools that we have available to actually calculate what our nitrate losses are, looking at our stock mixes, because farmers know that certain stock classes create less of a problem than others, and so it's about matching your stock to your country and class of country. And generally the important thing is to identify your issues on your farm and use the tools that are applicable on your property. We want the water that's coming onto our property to be good, and we want the water leaving our property to be just as good.
We should undertake large-scale pest control throughout the Kaimai-Mamaku Forest Park and target rats, stoats and possums, but also those browsers that move through the understory, such as deer and goat. That'll help bind the sediment in the duff of the forest. It doesn't wash out into our waterways. As it passes down to the ocean, we should fence out stock entering into the waterways, and along those strips plant native plants. That'll create corridors all the way down to the harbour. At the edge of the harbour, we should restore and protect wetland areas, and again ensure that stock don't enter into the harbour itself. This will ensure that nutrients such as E. coli and fertilisers used in farming practices don't enter into our harbour and cause such things as blooms of algae such as sea lettuce.
The key remedies to some of the stresses that we're seeing in estuarine and coastal systems are going to be better management of catchments. We already know that, but I think there needs to be a redoubling of effort in terms of riparian reforestation remediation, as well as thinking about proper coastal spatial planning. At the moment, there's not much of that, and so we're seeing the effects of multiple simultaneous pressure from a great deal of mixed usage in these areas, and it's compounding problems that were otherwise singly relatively easy to solve.
We must take a long-term view on everything, including the health of our waterways and the health of our harbour. That means we need to start thinking about shifting all of our attitudes towards our land use practices, the way we manage land, the way we farm land, and the way we use our natural resources, so that we can ensure that they're going to be available for future generations, not just of our mokopuna, as I said at the beginning, but of all of our mokopuna. For us, that means working together with all people, including councils and government, who have an interest in restoring the mauri of the moana to its original status.
There's no doubt that we need to maintain the water quality that we have, if not improve it in many areas. We also need to make some really hard calls around how we use water and where we use water. Visitors want to be able to see beautiful lakes and streams, but also too, orchards are really important, as is farming area. So it's the choices that communities have to make around what they want to use water for. We don't want New Zealand to become one of those places that you should have visited 20 years ago. We want to be able to deliver the promise that is absolutely about the environment that we have. And that's all about being well informed and choosing for our kids' kids. It's all about information.